Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be a video about the positives of the glorious 1911. There are no sponsors to the channel right now. All I need from you, just hit that subscribe button. Secondly, to that, I have a B channel if you're looking for even more genuine content that's not firearms related. To switch up your subscription feed, check out my B channel FF Lifestyle card up in the right hand corner of your screen now. I would really appreciate your help in getting to 1,000 subs. This is the first time that my entire 1911 collection has been on the table in front of me. I do have two stragglers over on the left and right hand side. It is a Rock Island and a T-Sauce, and then everything in the middle. There are so many videos out there talking about, kind of jokingly, the 1911 versus the Glock, and why is the Glock better? Why is the 1911 better? And I find that a lot of these videos are just kind of regurgitating funny myths and other things about 1911s and vice versa about Glocks. And almost always, if there's any positive comments about a 1911 or even videos talking positively, it's about folks that maybe are not actually carrying a 1911 or actually betting their life on a 1911. And just kind of, again, regurgitating the general groupthink. You may not know that I still, to this very day, EDC a TRP operator, full rail, in 45 ACP. What I consider a 1911 would be a single stack variation in 45 ACP. That is primarily what we are talking about in this video. I do have one 9mm 1911 in this array of pistols here, and it is my Springfield Range Officer. But for the most part, I don't necessarily view 9mm 1911s as a great indication of reliability or track record when it comes to the lineup. Almost always, you may or may not have some finicky issues with 9mm 1911s that a lot of the time is not present on 45 ACPs. As with everything social media, we have kind of destroyed what is and always has been the 1911, the new modern age of 2011 9mm pistols. And although yes, it has some heritage with 1911s, I do not even consider those remotely in the same wheelhouse as a standard 1911. And again, the primary reason is track record and reliability. How the gun carries in an EDC roll. Many people look at this pistol and they think, oh man, that is ginormous, it is heavy, it cannot carry well. And I gotta tell you, each and every time I have concealed carried a 1911, I have been unbelievably surprised at just how comfortable it is. This would be of the heavier side of 1911s, but even if you went with a non-railed 1911 like this Springfield 1911 A1 loaded that I have carried many times with no light, no rail, it is, in comparison, very light and honestly very, very comfortable to carry. Also, when it comes to 1911s, because of the fact of having a manual safety and a grip safety, I can now carry with a leather holster without any sort of a worry that it's going to fold into the trigger guard and cause any major issues or concerns. I believe, personally, after carrying with Kydex for almost 10 years and now switching to leather, that leather is a far superior holster material if your pistol allows it. And luckily, with 1911s, they most definitely allow it. And again, just the way that it carries was still giving you a full grip and presentation. These guns fit so well in the hand. I mean, truly, at the range, even if you are a beginner, when you present a 1911, it just works. It just works really well. And for a long time, I wanted to kind of hide this fact to myself. I would shoot 1911s. I've always loved 1911s, but I would always tell myself, well, the capacity's not there, and all of those other negatives that these pistols very much do have. Then I got my TRP, And I've wanted this gun for so long, and the shootability was so impressive, so ridiculous, and the reliability was there that it actually forced me to say, you know what? I shoot this gun so good and so much better than any other gun in my collection that I actually feel like I need to carry this. And even for a beginner, these guns tend to shoot incredibly well. The shootability is just there. Triggers across the board with most 1911s, usually most Series 70 1911s, maybe not Series 80 1911s. The trigger is just excellent right out of the box. No need for any adjusting. I am not a huge fan of any sort of manual safety, and that is why I loved striker-fired pistols. But if we are talking about safeties on a pistol, we have to talk about how easy it is to disengage a safety on a 1911. When somebody has to have a safety, like in the case of the 1911, you can't get more effortless than these two safeties here. The grip safety gives you a nice semi-drop, inertia drop, I should say, ability, although in a Series 70 you still have that free-floating firing pin that might yield some issues, but for the most part you have some inertia protection there with the grip safety. And with the manual safety, not only is it so easy to disengage and engage, but it also acts as a little bit of a gas pedal for your rear thumb and an index point on the pistol. So I think that is a huge positive when it comes to these pistols, is just how easy it is, especially if it's an ambi safety, to engage that safety on the pistol no matter what you're doing. Holster availability. When we're talking a standard non-railed 1911, we unfortunately have to kind of throw out the SIG 1911 in this case, and also some Smith & Wesson 1911s, because although yes, they're 1911s, they're actually not necessarily standard 1911s because of the squared off slide that they have. You're not going to have the same holster availability for Kydex holsters. But for the most part, any Kydex or leather, thank you Falco, on the market, they're going to have standard 1911 holsters out there. You're not going to run into just kind of weird holster availability. If you have a standard non-light 1911, you're going to be able to find an inside or outside the waistband holster that is going to work with you. When you are going to something like a full rail 1911, or even a standard railed 1911 like this Para here, and you go with a light, of course, like any other pistol, you're going to begin having difficulties finding a holster. But I find that provided you go with an X300 or a TLR1, you're going to have actually still a pretty easy ability to find a holster for your pistol. So holster availability on 1911s is actually still excellent. One of the things that I have struggled with so greatly with the debate of myself carrying a 1911 has been the capacity. With a 45 ACP 1911, you are generally carrying with 8 rounds. Yes, you could carry with a 10 rounder, one in the pipe, making 11 rounds on tap. You're really getting out of the EDC role. It's gonna be very difficult to conceal that pistol with the Wilson 10 rounder in there, depending on your body type. These pistols are still used in combat real world applications today. Now, yes, that's a common kind of thing that people say about these guns. Oh, 2 world wars. But these pistols have been in service for over 80 years. And with that being said, why that matters in my very case today, when I was arguing with myself capacity, I actually talked to a few of my buddies that were Green Berets that still carried a 1911 in Afghanistan in modern post-2000 standard military combat. And they absolutely saw some combat and absolutely actually did use their 1911s, and it was never an issue. And that spoke volumes to me. Yes, I love having 20 rounds on tap, especially when we are not in a form of military service where I am carrying a long gun with me day in, day out, and this is really just a backup to get to my long gun if something were to catastrophically happen. Yes, I think you have more limitations with a limited capacity. in, say, an active shooter situation. But in my case, I carry 2 spare magazines, and I remind myself that if these pistols are currently and effectively still being used in modern combat today, maybe my situation day in, day out, I am probably going to be okay with essentially 9 rounds on tap with 2 extra reloads, and it's gonna be just fine. And how accurately you can place shots with these pistols, I actually think it's far less of a limitation than people think. Magazine variety and inexpensiveness. Now, yes, I carry with Wilson Combat magazines, and that would be what I typically recommend if you are looking to carry these pistols or any other high quality 1911 magazine. But you have Metgars out there that have been 100% reliable for me, and a variety of other options. Metgars are coming in less than $20 per 8-round magazine, and you can stockpile these mags without issue, and they are probably going to run in a good high quality 1911. I consider 1911s shockingly similar to AKs in a lot of different ways, but primarily in the way of magazines. Like there are a bajillion AK mags, there are a bajillion 1911 mags, and you need to check and verify your specific magazines in your 1911 to make sure that they run reliably and feed effortlessly, and if they do, you're going to be just fine. And again, if you have a high quality 1911, take for instance both of these Springfields here, I have never had an issue in really any of the magazines that I've tried, probably about 6 or 7 different manufacturers across the board. Customizable features. You can customize these pistols out the ass and then some. As with any pistol, I would not recommend, if you're carrying it, to be messing around and polishing in your fire control giblets in your pistol. That just never, ever, ever ends well, especially on a 1911 when you can start getting hammer follow and other major safety concerns. Just small things, grip interchangeability. I can put some grip tape on the front if it does not have front strap checkering like this awesome TRP does. I can also put a flared mag well without any issue on the gun. I can swap sights just like any other pistol. Of course, if you do have more of a GI 1911 like this original Colt here, you're going to have a much more difficult time modifying things easily. Even on this over 100-year-old pistol, you are still going to have an easy time modifying that gun, and that speaks volumes to me on these pistols as well. Ability to have modern day accessories. These are things that many people forget about. On a standard 1911, even let's take for instance this Para here, I could get this cut for a red dot optic. I could also knock out the rear dovetail sight and knock in a red dot mount if I wanted to go that route and not cut the actual slide itself. And I could also have a modern weapon light without issue. So all the standard accessories that I would have on, say, my VP9 or any other gun that I've carried before, I could have on these pistols here. Now, with my TRP, I have decided to opt for no red dot and just a weapon light. I do see the very obvious benefits of having a red dot, and more specifically in classes that I've taken with this TRP so far, I have seen the very obvious distinction at distance shooting with a pistol. Can you make distance shots with standard combat iron sights? Yes. Can you make it accurately on a very small target? Probably not. It is very, very difficult. You have to spend a lot of time doing it, and anybody in the class with a red dot optic absolutely blew me out of the water, and that was the case time and time again. The speed and accuracy of your shots and the natural grip angle. When you really start learning and shooting with the 1911, the speed of these guns is just astounding. They are absolutely excellent. The way that the triggers are, the way that they shoot, it just can't be denied, and that is why they are still being used in competition shooting to this day. They really are excellent, excellent guns. Finally, we can talk about value. Now, bringing in the Rock Island and the T-Sauce here, These are what I would consider still to this day very high value 1911s. The Rock Island, or in this case, this is a Cimarron, but it's basically made by Rock Island. This Cimarron was like 400, okay? And the T-Sauce, again, about 400 bucks. My reliability has been 100%. Now, are you going to still get the same long-term reliability as something like a TRP? Maybe, maybe not. This pistol is less than 400. Usually you can find them on sale for like the 350 area. You're getting down into almost high point pricing, okay, in some of these 1911s, and they're still going to bring you what I would consider one of the best triggers on the market today in a Series 70 1911, and give you a good, reliable carry pistol. So take that for what you will. This is going to wrap up my video on all of the positives that I see on these glorious pistols in front of you today. Hopefully, you guys have found this video somewhat helpful. If you have any questions at all about these guns on the table here or anything else, throw them down below in the comment section and I absolutely will get back to you. While you're down there, head up to the description for the ways to support the channel. And as always, stay tuned for more great videos coming soon.